Down goes Metagross. We come in with the big thick boy Shadow Snorlax. We are looking to commit to the Lick Farm down. This is just a 9-head. Snorlax does not need to shield. It shows its bulk. What does the opponent have in the back? And it is an unshielded Mamoswine superpower. Gonna hit for big damage. So, welcome back to the home of Shadow Pokemon. Today, we have an absolute treat for you all from my good friend and appropriately named Shadowgangster. We are going to refer to him as Shadow. Throughout the video, he is bringing a triple Shadow team, including best buddy Shadow Snorlax. It's actually level 50.5 because he is a perfectly legitimate player. As you can see by his catch stats, he is missing that one final power up, but it is still a fucking monster. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, we see Mewtwo in the lead. Side Strike hits for absolutely huge damage, but Dragon Breath tearing through this Mewtwo. We are going to look to get off the Dragon Claw before Side Strike number 2. Let's see if Shadow looks to make a catch on one of his back mom. He does not, so we are now going to be forced to either commit both shields or take huge damage. We do commit the second shield. In comes Metagross. Metagross, did you hear about the Season 12 move update? Yes, you did. It is actually a Shadow Metagross superpower. Draws a shield from the opponent. This is just a Meteor Mash Snorlax. The big thick boy does survive on low HP. Shadow lets himself get as low as possible before debuffing himself with a superpower to maximize the amount these licks do. Do we flip switch? We do not. Metagross survives 1 HP and a dream. We snipe with the Dragonite back out. Comes Mewtwo. Do we outpace to the Dragon Claw? We actually farm down, and in the back it is a Gyarados. Dragon Claw gonna hit for some big damage. Luckily for us, our Metagross isn't gonna have to face this thing. Dragon Breath does hit us for super effective, but our Dragonite far too oppressive, and that is all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next one. We see Palkia in the lead. It's Dragon Breath versus Dragon Tail. Palkia can only hit us with resisted with the Aqua Tail. They have to farm up all the way to a Draco Meteor. The opponent did shield. We now switch out into Snorlax. Is this the Draco? We do commit a shield and it is just an Aqua Tail. Snorlax looking for the Lick Farm down, and the big thick boy does not disappoint, and out comes the big basic bitch Tin Can known as Dialga. Snorlax not baiting, goes straight for the superpower. The opponent does shield it up, but Snorlax still not done. Makes superpower number 2, and even debuff gets Dialga into the yellow. The opponent does commit to the farm down, but we have a perfect answer with Metagross, and in the back it is an Excadrill, and holy smokes, this little mole has no shields. We can safely shield up the Drill Run. We are going to outpace to the Earthquake. Very nice overfarm by Shadow. This Earthquake is going to take out the mole and all its siblings, and probably its fucking mom and dad as well. Now, just for the flex, Shadow makes a great catch, catching the Draco on his Dragonite, and this game is absolutely over. We are going to go for another overkill of an Earthquake, and the Tin Can gets absolutely fucking wrecked. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on into the next battle, we see another Tin Can. However, this time it is Melmetal. A real problem for Dragonite. Rock Slide does hit for super effective, but Season 12 did give us access to the superpower Nuke potential. We are baiting with a Dragon Claw, and the Tin Can obliges with a shield. Shadow now going to match shields. The Dragon Breath, although resisted, is going to get this thing quite low. The opponent switches out into a Charmer, and the Charmer's worst nightmare, Shadow Metagross. However, we all know that shinies do more damage. We are not going to shield up the Psyshock. Psyshock does absolutely nothing. Metagross commits to the Bullet Punch farm down, and we are now absolutely loaded. Both trainers have 1 Protect Shield remaining. We see Melmetal come in, and we are going for a very risky Meteor Mash bait. The opponent calls the bait, but Metagross is at the back-to-backs. This resisted will still manage to knock out, and the opponent's final Pokemon is a Waterfall Gary. Interesting. This Waterfall Gary is not going to have a good time. Even trying to get rid of this low health Dragonite, we land the Dragon Claw. We can now safely switch out into the big thick boy, and the opponent should be reaching for the top left. We do shield in case they go for an outrage. It is just a crunch. Snorlax doesn't really care. We make the body slam. Body slam gets this thing into the yellow. The opponent still farming up, playing it out. Mr. Opponent, what are you hoping for? A miracle? Perhaps, but you aren't getting one, and Snorlax is going to close this game in style. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on into the next battle, we see the mole, Little Excadrill, in the lead once again. This used to be Dragonite's worst nightmare. However, we do survive 1 Rock Slide. The little mole will always shit its pants and shield up a potential superpower. We do land the bait. We do know we do survive 1, but Shadow is going to shield up the Rock Slide. Are we going to look to get off superpower. Number 2, it looks like Shadow is just going to spam out Dragon Claw after Dragon Claw, and it looks like the opponent needs to come to school and learn to count. We didn't even have the energy for the superpower, but Shadow's counting is immaculate as we do manage to catch the charge move on our big thick boy. This is just a side strike, and Snorlax once again with its huge bulk, not in danger of getting farmed down. We laugh at the side strike. It's like, Mewtwo, is that all you've got? The big thick boy looks to go for the lick down. We get a little bit of lag. We are going to spam out one more body slam. Body slam takes care of Mewtwo and its Giratina in the back. Shadow still has a shield remaining and a very healthy Dragonite. To deal with this Giratina, we look to shield up a potential Shadow Ball, and the shield is a very good one. The opponent looks to wham bam, combo play, land the rock slide, but Dragonite not taken out. We now bank a boatload of energy, look to catch the rock slide on our Metagross, and the opponent 5-heads us with the drill run. Metagross does manage to bullet punch, farm down. Giratina comes back out, they farm us down, but we've got the Dragon Claw locked and loaded, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on into the next battle, we see Mewtwo in the lead. The Dragon Breath absolutely tearing through Mewtwo. However, Side Strike really needs to be respected, and Shadow does respect it. With a shield, we are going to look to outpace to this Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will either do big damage or draw a shield, and the opponent matches shields. And stay in school, kids. Learn to count. We catch the resisted Side Strike on our Metagross, and Mewtwo, one of the most attack-weighted Pokemon in the game, does absolutely nothing to Metagross. However, we are not so smug now as the opponent answers with a Darkrai. Holy fucking shit. Speaking of Darkrai, I once got Focus Blast by Brandon Tan running this in the Ultra League, and you love to see it. Shadow did shield up, wanting to get all shields down. Dark Pulse more than enough to take care of Metagross. We look to farm down. Shadow, realising the opponent was about to reach one more Dark Pulse, we are forced to fire off the Dragon Claw. What does the opponent have in the back? And it is Dialga. Do we land the superpower? I think the opponent has made a catch. Holy shit, great play from the opponent, catch for catch. However, superpower didn't KO. We come in to Snorlax. The opponent isn't going to outpace to the Draco, and Snorlax is going to land the superpower. Superpower doesn't knock out. They make the Draco. Draco will be taking care of Snorlax, but they should be in Dragon Breath farm down range. And Dragonite is a Dialga counter. Confirmed. Really fun battle there. GG's to both trainers. Moving on into the next battle, we see Dialga in the lead. Usually pretty bad for Dragonite, but Season 12's superpower coverage makes this a fairly equal matchup, as superpower would have the potential to one-shot Shadow. Doesn't even build up to the superpower. The opponent does oblige with a shield. We switch out into Metagross, and the opponent is on Thunder. Holy smokes, great shield there from Shadow. The opponent now answers with a Zekrom behind on energy. Shadow not baiting Earthquake, sends Zekrom straight back to its Pokeball. It was straight in and straight out. Back out comes the Tin Can, and Shadow is just going to spam out the Meteor Mash, wanting to get some chip damage on the opponent, and the opponent obliges with the second shield, and they dump energy. Shadow in a really comfortable spot here. Ironhead takes us out. We now come in with the big thick boy, Shadow Snorlax. This is just an Ironhead. Shadow knows his counts, not respecting shit. The big thick boy laughs it off, and it is a Mamoswine in the back. Mamoswine unshielded, superpower lands for big damage. Shadow looks to reset his debuff, come in with Dragonite. We simultaneously KO, and Snorlax licks down Dialga. Moving on into the next battle, we see Zaru in the lead. The opponent is either a big fan of cheating, aka defit, or a marathon runner. I'll let you guys watching decide. Dragonite is pretty comfortable in this matchup. We do resist the Vine Whips. Dark Pulse would hit for decent neutral damage. We do choose to shield up as the opponent is staying in a negative matchup, so chances are they are double weak. The opponent has committed both shields. We now switch out into the big thick boy. Lick is resisted due to Zaru's dark typing. We tank the Power Whip. However, this angry little monkey is at Power Whip. Number 2, Snorlax hangs on with 1 HP and a Dream. We make the body slam. Body slam takes care of Zarude. We save our shield. Snorlax was nothing more than a sacrificial lamb, and it is Shadow Mewtwo in the back. Holy smokes, this is a scary Pokemon. We are going to shield up the Side Strike. Shadow needs to be mindful of a catch he throws in the middle of the Psycho Cut. Dragon Claw doesn't one-shot. The opponent switches out into the little mole, and we look to catch the Rock Slide on our Metagross. Great play there from Shadow. The opponent needs to throw the second drill run, or we're going to make the Meteor Mash. Meteor Mash is resisted. However, someone forgot to tell Excadrill as they get one shot by a resisted move. Back out comes Mewtwo, and Metagross puts the team on its back for the victory. Moving on to the next one. We see another Excadrill in the lead. If this was last season, Dragonite would be having a torrid time. However, Season 12 has now made Dragonite the number 2 pick on PV Poke. Shadow once again going for a Dragon Claw bait, and as always, Excadrill shits its pants, shields it up. Shadow can now match shields, and we are going to outpace to the super. We've just got to be mindful of the catch, and just as I say it, the opponent does catch. I don't know what they've caught it on. They catch it on a Zacian. We can now come in with Metagross Bullet Punch, absolutely ripping through one of the most annoying Pokemon in the entire league. They go for the close combat. They actually make close combat number 2. This is why it is so annoying. Even Shadow Metagross can't Bullet Punch it down before the 2 moves. So we are forced to shield, and nothing really wants to tank a move from Metagross, so we get the shield from the Yveltal, and we actually make Meteor Mash number 2, and holy smokes, that did like 70% of Yveltal's HP. We come back out into Dragonite. The opponent is going to have to throw energy. They throw the Dark Pulse. Snorlax will now be able to lick down before the Focus Blast. The opponent doesn't even make a charge move. Back out comes Excadrill, and unless this Excadrill suddenly learns Focus Blast of their own, which they don't, they are absolutely fucked. Snorlax tanks the Drill Run, no problemo, and we are going to return fire with the Super Power, and with the lag, it looks like the opponent force closed the app, but GG's nonetheless. Moving on to the next one. Moving on into the next battle, and surprise, surprise, it's another basic bitch Dialga in the lead. Shadow builds up to the super power he baits with a Dragon Claw, and the Tin Can shits its pants, puts up a shield. We now switch out into Snorlax, and he looks like he is going to call the Iron Head bait, and the opponent goes, fuck you, have the Draco. Snorlax, as thick as it is, did not appreciate that Draco. Snorlax was straight in and straight out. We are now going to come in with Metagross, and I imagine the play is going to be to go for the very aggressive Bullet Punch farm down. The opponent fires a debuffed Iron Head that doesn't do a whole great deal of damage, but this Dialga is absolutely going off. It fires one more debuffed Iron Head, and Metagross is now deep in the red, but we have 100 energy, good to go. The opponent now comes in with a Togekiss. Holy smokes, Mr. Opponent. What are you doing? I'm actually going to eat my words, as the opponent showed the Togekiss, committed their final shield, and then switched out into Metagross to catch the second. Great play there from the opponent, knowing that we could store back-to-back. We now come in after banking a Meteor Mash for the road with Dragonite. We just need to make the superpower. It looks like Shadow realising he's not going to get there. Fires off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw doesn't care, but one Bullet Punch should take him out. And we've got the second Meteor Mash. Good to go. And the opponent concedes the match. Moving on to the next one. We see Ho-Oh in the lead. A really dominant matchup for Dragonite. The opponent is staying in. They tank the Dragon Claw. We can now shield up a potential Brave Bird, and we will be able to Dragon Breath farm it all the way down, and Dragonite leaves with residual energy and pretty much full HP. We bank a boatload of energy and now pivot into our Snorlax to meet this Florges, fires the Moonblast does do pretty respectable damage, but Snorlax returns fire with a Body Slam, and the opponent does shield it up. I am now pretty certain that the opponent's final Pokemon is going to be Giratina, which would explain why the opponent did stay in the opening matchup. However, it's actually a Mewtwo, so I have no idea why they didn't pivot. We go for the Super Power, minimising the amount of farm that this opponent can get. We now come back out into Dragonite. We have triggered CMP, so we commit our final shield. Fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw lands for big damage. Shadow looks to farm down. Mewtwo survives on 1 HP. And a Dream Side Strike is going to take us out. The opponent saving that shield for whatever the fuck they like, as this opponent is fucked. It's just going to be a fast move beatdown to the finish. The opponent can fire off the Moonblast, but Moonblast really doesn't do a whole boatload of damage. Even if it's another Moonblast, we will survive. It's just a disarming voice, and Metagross farms down for the win. Moving on to the next one, we see another basic bitch Dialga in the lead. Shadow doesn't even build up to the super power. Do we get a shield with the Dragon Claw? Yes, we do. He now pivots into Metagross. The opponent has enough for the Draco, so Shadow is going to respect it. With a shield, Draco would be resisted, but it does do a boatload of damage. Out comes Mewtwo, not going to appreciate a Shadow. Meteor Mash, the opponent is now down. All shields the opponent's counting is immaculate. They do fire off a charge move on a CMP. Shadow choosing to shield up the Shadow Ball and return fire with a Meteor Mash, and Metagross returns Mewtwo to its Pokeball, and the opponent's final Pokemon
is Melmetal. We switch out into Dragonite, forcing the opponent to dump some energy. Rockside takes care of Dragonite. I imagine we will come in to the big thick boy, and that is the play that Shadow does. Super will hit for super effective. However, Snorlax does laugh it off. The opponent now catches the super power on the Dialga, but this is going to be high Dialga. By Dialga, it's now Melmetal versus the world. The opponent's counting is immaculate. Just as we reach the super power, they fire off the Rockside. Rockside does take us out, but Metagross with residual energy is going to fire off the Earthquake, and Earthquake is going to be more than enough to take care of that silly little tin can. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on into the next battle, we see Mewtwo in the lead. We've seen this a few times in the video. Shadow likes to shield the first return fire with a Dragon Claw, and let's see if he makes the catch on his Metagross. No sooner than I managed to spit my words out, Shadow has spammed out the swap, and he's caught another resisted side strike. You absolutely love to see it. The opponent is staying in. This could be a Shadow Ball, and it looks like Shadow is committing to the Bullet Punch farm down. The opponent does fire off the Shadow Ball. We are down shields, but Metagross is an absolutely deadly Pokemon. Meteor Mash is going to clap this Hydreigon for huge damage. They've shielded the first. Metagross already at the second, and I don't think this opponent is going to appreciate it. Holy shit, it near one-shots. We snipe with Dragonite, and it is Melmetal in the back. Shadow just going straight for the super power. Super power does around 75% of Melmetal's HP. Rockside will be taking us out. However, we have a full HP Snorlax in the back. Shadow, not wanting to reveal his third, is going to bring back out the Metagross. Super power does take us out, and we actually are forced to show our third, but Snorlax is really comfortable. Debuffed super power is going to do effectively nothing, and Snorlax licks down for the win, and appropriately Shadow's avatar taunts the opponent. Moving on to the next one. We see Ho-Oh in the lead, and interestingly enough, this opponent is also staying in, so let's see if they've got Giratina in the back, or am I just a noob as I don't play Master League, and am I calling the team comp completely wrong? This opponent choosing not to get farmed down, switch out into Dialga, down shields. We aren't going to be able to shield up the Draco. Shadow Metagross does hang on with 1 HP and a Dream return fire with the Earthquake. Earthquake does get us shield parity from this Dialga, however that is one very healthy tin can. Let's see how Shadow chooses to play his way out of this one. We come in to Snorlax. The opponent is debuffed, so the Iron Head doesn't do a whole boatload of damage. I highly doubt we can manage to get the lick down. Shadow, realising we're not able to do it, fires off the resisted Body Slam, but Body Slam, a very decent move, takes care of Dialga, and there is the Giratina. The opponent comes in, farms up some energy, switches out into Ho-Oh, and Snorlax is going to do what Snorlax does best and spam out a Body Slam. We then snipe with Dragonite. Shadow choosing to shield it up, and we correctly shield up a Shadow Ball. This game is absolutely over. Even if Giratina manages to get rid of our Dragonite, which they're not going to be able to, Snorlax would absolutely wall this thing. The opponent would need to be on Dragon Pulse, and that is a whole shitload of energy. So we managed to win that game. Moving on to the next one. We see the Shadow Dragonite mirror. The opponent safe switches into Zacian, and we are going to answer with Metagross. We are going to choose to shield up the first close combat. We did switch a little bit late, so we are going to have to eat close combat number 2, and holy smoke, Shadow choosing to go down 2 shields. I personally don't like going down 2 to no shields. However, we already know that Metagross hits everything in this league for huge damage. Back out comes Dragonite. The opponent no shields the Meteor Mash, and now they are going to be very sad as they are near one shot. We Bullet Punch, farm them down, and the opponent's final Pokemon is a Metagross of their own. We look to bank some energy, switch out into Dragonite. The opponent gets far too greedy, not firing off the Meteor Mash. Dragonite makes the super power draws a shield from the opponent. The opponent now has to throw the Meteor Mash anyway, so I have no idea why they didn't just throw before they committed their final shield. Shadow now going to bring in Snorlax, and Snorlax is going to do what the big thick boy does best and absorb some energy. The opponent fires the first Meteor Mash. We shrug it off. We are now going to reach the super power, and super power is going to seal the deal. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next one, we see another Dialga in the lead. This one is shiny, so it will do more damage. No, I'm just kidding. We don't build up to the superpower, however, all Dialgas seem to just shield absolutely fucking anything. We now switch out into Metagross and the opponent answers with Mewtwo. This isn't really a great matchup for Mewtwo, as despite Meteor Mash only being neutral, they would get one shot. We are going to respect a potential Shadow Ball and the opponent doesn't bait. They now have no shield Shadow over farm, so he is going to be forced to shield up the second Shadow Ball. I see what he's doing here. He's going to build up to 100 energy. Meteor Mash is going to take care of Mewtwo and we're going to have residual energy. Good to go. The opponent comes back in with Dialga. They are going to have to throw the Draco to take us out. Metagross hangs on 1 HP and a dream lands the Earthquake. Earthquake says night night. Sleep tight, Dialga. And the opponent's final Pokemon is Melmetal. This is going to be somewhat tricky. Rock Slide takes us out. It's going to be Snorlax versus the Tin Can. Who will prevail? Let's find out. We are going to both be looking to land the superpower. However, the opponent can hit for neutral with Rock Slide and the opponent does throw the Rock Slide. I'm not sure if superpower would knock out from this range, so Shadow is going to go for the body slam first. It's now going to be a race. The opponent gets far too greedy. Snorlax reaches the superpower and that's going to be all she wrote. So for the final time in the video, it's going to be a GG's and thanks for playing. So a huge thank you to Shadow for the phenomenal battle submission. Shadow Snorlax absolutely did not disappoint. So if you're enjoying that content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing if you'd like your battles featured on the channel. A link to my battle submission form is down below. I'd just like to say thanks for watching and I will see you all in the next one.